So good afternoon, everyone. So it is my pleasure to introduce this session. This session will be about the CMU Portugal Partnership, and the title is The Contribution of the CMU Portugal International Partnership for the High-Tech Ecosystem in Portugal.
Thank you, InRes. By the way, my name is Nuno Nunes. I'm one of the co-directors. InRes Lins here with me is the other co-director of the International Partnership. We will have remotely with us José Fonseca de Moura in a few minutes to give you also some words. And with us we have two representatives from the industry partners that we have affiliated with the Carnegie Mellon International Partnership. The partnership has many different ways of helping research in Portugal. One of them is through talent. Actually, we will see in the video that we will show you how this talent has been key in promoting the generation of new startup companies. We have one of them, FeedsEye, with people heavily involved with the partnership. OutSystems is another example of a company that benefited a lot from the talent that the partnership developed throughout the years. And so we still do dual degree PhD programs, and we do these research projects in collaboration with industry. And to show you better what type of research we do with the companies in these large-scale projects, we are going to show you a video with examples of the projects. And the video is going to be divided in two sections. And just after me, we will see the first section of that video with examples of the large-scale projects.
Technology is one of today's most challenging sectors, with the world constantly evolving to the beat of new discoveries. To keep the pace, it is crucial to be at the forefront of technological development and be part of an innovation ecosystem that couples cutting-edge research with the know-how of highly innovative companies in the data-driven economy. And this is where CMU Portugal comes in. Throughout the years, the program has supported innovative, collaborative initiatives and has built solid industrial and academic collaborations that are an essential part of the program's achievements. So, let us tell you about what we've been up to lately. In 2019, CMU Portugal launched the most ambitious call in its history. To answer such a competitive call, 12 large-scale collaborative projects were selected, covering areas ranging from data science, artificial intelligence, and machine learning to mobility or language technologies. And for the first time, the 12 projects are led by a Portuguese company in close partnership with more than 25 Portuguese institutions, ranging from universities to research labs, hospitals, and companies, plus 8 CMU departments in a financial, private, and public commitment of almost 25 million euros. Now let's take a closer look at these pioneering projects. AIDA is evolving RAID, which is a flagship end-to-end real-time data management platform developed to collect data across business applications and platforms to provide detailed monitoring of business activity and improve corporate performance. The AIDA project's overarching goal is to conceive a new version of the RAID platform by moving some of the pipeline phases to the edge of the system and taking advantage of 5G. The next version of RAID will enable companies to collect and monitor data in an extremely flexible way, with real-time guarantees, security, and reliability. The prototype will be deployed and demoed by the end of the project in a realistic scenario in the telecommunications services sector. B2Waste Crypto is a project that envisions the use of data science and blockchain technologies to maximize value and contribute to a sustainable waste management strategy at a local level with a global scope. It might be possible through designing the best set of technologies to be used in terms of the quality and quantity of waste generated and also of the materials to be produced, from waste processing under environmental and economic criteria. Another goal to be put in practice is the creation of a token, eventually based on a cryptocurrency to make use of blockchain technologies that rewards individuals' sustainable behavior in returning waste for recycling or reuse, as well as to promote pay-as-you-throw solutions. The Building Hope project proposes to develop a tool to redefine buildings' energy management practices in the context of smart urban environments. The Building Hope platform will be tested in relevant contexts, industrial, offices, and retail buildings. This resulting technology will allow buildings to have a unique type of energy management, characterizing in detail energy services consumption and optimizing the operation across multiple energy systems, among other advantages. Camelot is a project focused on efficient fraud detection in the cloud with award-winning results. Grounded on the real-world use of machine learning to prevent financial fraud, it aims to improve the use of ML in terms of cloud resources, anonymized data, efficient data pipeline processing, and development of fair and explainable models. The Floyd project aims at building a technological stack for offering high-performance network computation services to users of connected vehicles. Floyd will explore the potential of artificial intelligence in multiple technological domains by identifying processes in mobility, autonomous driving, or network operation that follow complex behaviors and thus require or have considerable potential to benefit from an intelligent learning approach. About the Golem project. Imagine that you have no programming expertise, but the ability to create your own app is at your reach. This is what Golem intends to make possible, basically trying to answer questions such as these. What is the next generation of low-code? What is the most natural way for a citizen developer to create fit-to-purpose apps without having to write code? And how can such a visionary development experience be implemented? The experience of being a consumer might also change a lot, thanks to the ideas stated by iFetch. They are trying to develop a software that will allow consumers, constituents, and citizens to access information more naturally, empowering them to make better informed decisions. This will be made possible through a database granted by the company Farfetch regarding product types and attributes, and creating a network of multimodal conversation artificial intelligence agents, revolutionizing the luxury fashion industry's
Okay, I think you should stay to watch the second part of the video. Meanwhile, we will have with us José Fonseca de Moura from Pittsburgh, I think, or New York probably. I think he's already online.
Yes, Nun. So I guess it's my turn now. And I went against the recommendations and did make some slides. So I'd appreciate if they are displayed now. Vasco, can you put the slides up? Well, I guess I can start talking and hopefully the slides will show up. So as Nun says, I'm Jose Moura and I'm a professor at Carnegie Mellon, and I direct the program from the CMU side. And I'm going to address briefly aspects yeah, okay, good. Now the slides are showing. Aspects related to the research and innovation and those aspects of the program. It's a great story, and it was not necessarily planned or dreamed even a priori, but as the program developed since 2006 through its 3 phases, we kind of moved from start moving the goalposts and start observing and developing these impacts. So in this slide, of course, Nuno already referred to the fact that we have 3 major components. One is education aspects. The other is the talent development. The other is the involvement with companies. And with the involvement with companies is not as it's involving the researchers and the research institutions and universities, not as development centers of technology, but rather as partnering with the companies to steer the high quality research that the researchers and faculty members, doctoral students, and so forth carry out at their universities, to have direct impact because in companies, because the problems worked are jointly defined with these companies. So let me just give a statistic in terms of the talent development. Of course, we had about 260 graduates in the 5 professional master's programs. 160 of these were directly sponsored by companies. That paid not just the costs of their education, but supported them with fellowships while engaged in the program. And most of these graduates then went to work with many of these companies. Besides those professional masters, we have, of course, over 100 doctoral students. All of these is what we call dual degree students, spending time in Portugal and at CMU and receiving degrees from both CMU and Portugal. And these students, of course, through their research activity directly in Portugal, they augmented the numbers of researchers involved, university researchers involved in companies. Besides these, of course, in our activities and projects, there were many other hundreds of doctoral students and master students that were not dual degree but got engaged in our activities. So to give you an idea of the companies involved over the years, over the 3 phases of the program, this slide shows just 60 of the logos of some of these companies, but to our latest count, it's more than 150 or 160 of such companies. Since 2018, as industry affiliates, at least 16 companies are directly engaged. Some of them you will hear from them during the panel, like OutSystems and FeedsEye, and possibly others that are shown here as industry affiliates for phase 3 of the program. One of the nice outcomes of the program, and again, these are things that you can plan, but you create the conditions for that, is the startups. And I show here the logos of at least 12 of the startups of the program. And on this slide, we have some descriptions of the activities of some of these startups, and 2 of the ones shown here are actually now with the valuation that is over each of them over $1 billion. So these startup companies here, they have created lots of high quality jobs in Portugal. I think that our count, of course, these companies are expanding. Our last count was over 1,000 high quality jobs and maybe $300 million of capital investment gotten in different international VC markets. Now, it's not just the startups, it's also the high quality people, and I'm illustrating here with 5 or 6 of those doctoral students that graduated from the program and that joined companies in Portugal. It became almost a common sense, a common practice that the doctoral students, PhD professionals would join companies, either because they participated in projects with them, the companies saw the advantage of recruiting them, or because they were so interested in actually, rather than joining necessarily universities, joining the companies. I just show here a number of projects that over the years we have supported, 77 of them. And just to show you in phase 2, about 12 of the large projects that were launched in phase 2. Of course, there were still maybe 10 or 12 projects from phase 1 that continued in phase 2. The ones launched in phase 2 involved $14 million and 46 companies and so forth. And this slide shows the ecosystem of companies and universities and departments or colleges at CMU. And one of the projects somewhere here, I can't see exactly where, but maybe this project was VR to market, involved, for example, Hospital de Gaia, Petra-Tex, Biodevices, the University of Aveiro, Institute of Telecommunications, InESTEC, and the Heinz College at CMU. Another one, Hyrax, somewhere there, involves the College of Engineering, involves Wavecom, Geolink, HinzCam, InESTEC, NovID, Faculdade de Ciências, and the Institute of Telecommunications. And I could go over many of the others, and you will see that sometimes the same company appearing in different projects would create great synergisms, or the same research institution or the same college at CMU involved creating these synergisms. This is a similar slide now for phase 3. We just launched 12 very large projects, all led by companies. 4 of those companies are directly industrial affiliates of the program, and you will hear at least from 2 of them, OutSystems and FeedsEye, that again are on the panel that follows. And we are proud of these very large projects. And besides all these, there was another activity that we developed, which was called the InRes. The InRes was for very early startup companies, supporting them both with some local training in Portugal and then local training at CMU. And these, I think that if you count, it's about 12 of them shown in this slide in the 3 editions of the program. And the numbers there are for early 2016 or 2017. And we helped them develop their skills to sell their products to customers, to sell their products to venture capitalists, and they were successful immediately in raising capital. And I think that this is my last slide. I thank you for listening. I think that we have a very good story to tell, fostering these collaborations between companies, universities, research institutions, breaking the ceiling of the ivory tower, and getting our graduates, masters, professional masters, and doctoral students engaged, and then become either entrepreneurs themselves, or joining entrepreneur companies, or joining established and large companies. Thank you. Nuno, back to you.
Thank you very much, José, for making the summary of the program in the last years. And now, without further ado, I will start introducing the members of the panel, and then InRes will start the panel discussion. With me, I have João Abreu from OutSystems at my right. João is responsible for innovation and academic relations programs at OutSystems, and in the past he's played multiple roles in research and development in OutSystems, and he holds a PhD in computer science from the University of Leicester. I think this is also an example of how this partnership is different. We have here with us several companies. Actually, we have 4 so-called unicorn companies with us, representatives from 4 so-called unicorn companies. 2 of them are emerged directly from the program, although one is incorporated in Berlin. And they all have highly qualified people in positions in their companies. I also have with me online Luís Carvalho from Farfetch, which is another unicorn company, as you know. Is Scientific Vice President of Technology at Farfetch, and helps shape the group's technology and innovation strategy, leading efforts across enterprise architecture, data governance, platform technologies, and research. To my left, next to Inês, I have Pedro Bizarro, who is also, I remember when the program started, a faculty member at the University of Coimbra, and now is co-founder and chief science officer of FeedsEye, another unicorn company, which has most of its engineering, like OutSystems, based in Portugal, employing hundreds of people in our country, highly qualified jobs. And his background draws from academia and research, and he's turned his technical expertise into entrepreneurship success, which has helped found FeedsEye, which is an industry-leading AI platform to fight fraud. Pedro has been an official member of the Forbes Technology Council, a visiting professor at Carnegie Mellon, a Fulbright Fellow, and has worked with CERN. And he holds also a PhD in computer science from the University of Wisconsin-Madison. Then finally, I have remotely Sofia Nunes, who is not a computer scientist. She's a psychologist. I still remember when I was promoting the program in HCI in Madeira, and I found this brilliant girl which had a lot of urge to pursue a career in technology, but she's trained as a clinical psychology. And the area of research that I'm also part of is very interdisciplinary, so it brings computer science with design and psychology, and here is a good example. And because she is a psychologist, she co-founded Mambu, which is another unicorn company, actually became the first unicorn of 2021, if I'm not mistaken, despite being based in Berlin, in Germany, which also shows how, funding these initiatives in Portugal also benefits other countries in Europe, not just Portugal. And she's been instrumental in building Mambu's unique company culture, and she uses her passion for people and experience design to create inspiring environment where people thrive to work to their full potential. And so these are our 4 guests, and now Inês will start the panel. Inês.
So thank you. I will start introducing OutSystems and Farfetch, who are the first 2 companies that will participate right now. So OutSystems and Farfetch, and actually José Fonseca de Moura has talked about this, are since the beginning of the 3rd phase of the program in 2018, 2 of the CMU Portugal 16 affiliated partners. And these 2 companies are clearly committed to actively contribute to the advanced education and research programs of the partnership and to increase their competitiveness by investing in research and development, in advanced training of human resources, and in building a highly skilled workforce dedicated to innovation activities. So they are also both promoters of 2 of the 12 new large-scale collaborative projects, so 2 projects that we have shown or have seen or are going to see in the video. And I will start by introducing OutSystems. So I will talk a bit more about Farfetch and OutSystems, and then I will give the word to João to talk about the work of OutSystems. So regarding Farfetch, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Farfetch is the leading global platform for the luxury fashion industry. The company's mission is to be the global platform for luxury fashion, connecting creators, curators, and consumers. Founded in 2007 by José Neves for the love of fashion, and launched in 2008, Farfetch began as an e-commerce marketplace for luxury boutiques around the world. Today, the Farfetch marketplace connects customers in over 190 countries and territories with items from more than 50 countries and over 1,300 of the world's best brands, boutiques, and department stores, delivering a truly unique shopping experience and access to the most extensive selection of luxury on a single platform. So I will continue with OutSystems, that is quite different but also quite successful. OutSystems is a modern application platform that enables organizations of all sizes to tackle any kind of critical application, from legacy, modernization, and workplace innovation to customer experience transformation. Using OutSystems, customers can build applications fast, build them right, and build them for the future. Top engineers at OutSystems work through every aspect of the platform to help organizations build enterprise-grade apps and transform their business faster. OutSystems combines the power of minimal coding with advanced mobile capabilities, enabling visual development of entire application portfolios that easily integrate with existing systems. OutSystems was founded in 2001 in Lisbon and is currently headquartered in Boston, Massachusetts, in the United States, and has offices in 11 countries. I will now connect OutSystems with the CMU Portugal partnership. So OutSystems leads the Golem project in collaboration with InRes, FCT Nova, and CMU. The project expects to enable everyone to create enterprise applications with no code through artificial intelligence and a rich set of language abstractions. Golem is aiming to automate programming and revolutionize the software development experience, ultimately allowing citizens or non-expert business professionals to develop their own apps. The project will advance the state-of-the-art AI applied to code, program synthesis, and automated programming techniques. So, João, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. So, I don't know, do you want me to, I think you've kind of said it all. So OutSystems was created 20 years ago, and what we do is we help other companies become digital. As Inês said, we have a platform that allows other companies to create their applications much faster and with less skills than traditional technologies. And this is a big challenge. So doing this is a big challenge. So we have 500 engineers right now working on top of OutSystems, improving this platform. So just even though the platform has already great results, to improve the platform and to address the needs of the market, you need 500 people. So this is just to give you an idea of the dimension. And doing this, which is to be better than traditional coding technologies, is a big challenge. There's a lot of uncertainty, and that's why we do research. So for us, doing research is about trying to explore paths of product evolution that we do not know will work or how to make them work. And one of the ways we do that is by working with universities. So we've worked with several universities in Portugal. We've worked with Nova, with InRes, with InRes, we've worked with Minho, we've worked with UBI. We're working with Carnegie Mellon. Just to give you an idea of the impact that this has, more than 70 students have done their MSc thesis at OutSystems on projects that were proposed by us. So that's 70 students have done their MScs at OutSystems. And Golem was indeed a big challenge that we wanted to tackle, which we probably wouldn't have done without the support of CMU and this program. So what we're doing with Golem is trying to figure out how in the future anyone can create applications without having any programming skills, without knowing about databases, without knowing about coding at all, and still be able to do professional applications, and this is the big challenge. And we don't know how to do this. So we need to explore before we even think about putting this kind of stuff in the product. And so we challenged Nova, which is one of our oldest partners who works in the language technologies, and we've challenged InRes to work with us on program synthesis. And we're basically learning if this can be done and how this can be done. And we already have a lot of results. We're at the end of the first year. And so the point is, without this, we probably wouldn't be doing this at the moment. So we wouldn't be exploring this kind of technologies, and we wouldn't be exploring it in such depth. So I don't know if you guys want to ask questions. This is my summary.
Okay, thank you, João. Actually, before passing on to Luís, I wanted to ask a question because I think many people perhaps in the audience would like to know how come we can create companies evaluated more than $1 billion like OutSystems, FeedsEye, Farfetch, and Mambu. Who are your competitors and what is limiting your growth right now in terms of business?
Yeah, so it's an interesting question because what OutSystems set out to do 20 years ago was something that the market didn't really understand the value of until like 4 or 5 years ago. So until 4 or 5 years ago, OutSystems was having to pitch the technology. So people didn't understand the value. Like 4 years ago, the low-code word came into the market, and everyone knows what low-code is, and now we don't have to sell it. We just have to grow the product as fast as you can. So one of the big challenges we have right now is hiring top-quality engineers, top-quality designers, and so on. And we're growing a lot. To meet the needs of our market, we need to grow more. Our competitors are a few companies you might have heard of, like Microsoft, like Salesforce. So these are big guys. We are a small company compared to them. The reason we are successful is because we're stubborn. Okay, we started a long time ago, so our technology is very complex. It's very hard to imitate. You cannot just build something similar in 1 year and have the same results. And we are knowledge leaders in what we're doing. So we are really in a good position to keep on growing and fight with these big guys and keep being a huge success.
Thank you, João. So I'll pass on to now to Farfetch and asking more or less the same question. I think it's interesting that we have here 2 companies whose competitors are names that probably everybody heard about, like Microsoft. I don't know what you're going to say, Luís, but I guess probably Amazon or another unicorn company in Europe I guess from Italy. But please.
First, I want to thank the organization for the invite to be here. And also a small correction, I'm not scientific vice president out of respect to my peers from the scientific fields. It's senior, and I'm more on the engineering side, but globally also overseeing research. Jumping straight to the question on competitors, it is a very, very, very hard question to answer. We have 2 layers at the company. One that you could probably talk about as being the luxury side, where some of our competitors will be the My3s of the world. Probably you could consider Net-a-Porter. We don't like to compare ourselves with Amazon. We stay on a more niche space in the fashion side. We stay on the luxury space, where Amazon actually tries to occupy a bit more on the other side of the spectrum. But we also have a very strong technical arm within Farfetch, right? What we call F-Tech, which is actually our group's technology side. And when we talk about competition there, it actually goes on the other direction. Our competitions are the Netflix and Spotify of the world, where we compete for top tier talent wherever they are globally. So we are playing 2 games. One on the business side, trying to building the platform to serve our customers, but also attracting the talent that nowadays, and with the experience we all went through with COVID, it sits anywhere in the world. Even with us having offices in São Paulo, in London, multiple tech offices in Portugal, New Delhi, Shanghai, Shenzhen, or actually not Shenzhen, Beijing, it's still a very, very, very hard fight nowadays, right, to find that talent. And I would actually say that that's where our main challenge lies, finding the top tier talent, because that will enable everything else. And also, kind of connecting with the conference here, that's where partnerships, which are foundational to our approach on how we build our platform, our technical approach to our business challenges. Partnerships are incredibly important, either through established business partners, but also through programs like the CMU one and our partnerships with Nova and EST, which enable us to tap into a different type of talent, also top-tier talent, but talent that is accustomed to the scientific side and taking their time and to iterate through the problems without being obsessed with a specific business requirement. And I think we want to protect, and we should protect these two kind of sides of that equation. I don't know if that answered the question.
Yes,
it is really
Luis.
broad, and we could do a full conference about that.
Can you talk a little bit more about the importance of the CMU partnership and the project you are leading, the iFetch?
Yeah, of course. So the way we approach research at Farfetch is based on three pillars. I already touched on one of those, partnerships. Another of those pillars is being customer obsessed. So everything we do is about the things we deliver, the experiences we deliver to our customers. So even research is based on real life scenarios that we want to tackle, even if those real life scenarios, we only foresee them to exist in 5 to 10 years. And what we could call the third pillar is tech must serve an objective. So kind of tying with the previous one, everything that we investigate, even if it's on the long term, must have something of value to the customers, to our partners, and even if it's just technical, to scale our platform, for example. So, and partnerships like the CMU one, and again, like we talked with Nova and EST on iFetch, are exactly an amazing fit for these three pillars. What we're doing with iFetch is we're tackling a huge challenge that is to enable a really global online and offline experience for our partners. And for those of you that are not aware, Farfetch actually has the ability to reach out customers through the online, either through our website, our marketplace. We actually develop the websites for multiple partners. So if you actually go to Harrods, which you actually are using the Farfetch platform behind it, you're using our logistics, you're using our e-commerce capabilities. If you go in China, if you're using WeChat, or if you're buying in Tmall, you're actually using also the Farfetch platform. So we have this ability to reach multiple channels online, but we also have physical stores through Browns, which is part of the Farfetch group. We have access to test our technology in physical spaces. And we just launched a new store in London that enabled us to test a lot of technology we've been building for the last 5 years, from connected mirrors to actually learning about the experience of the customer online and bringing that as data points for the staff to know what the customer wants and treat them as a VIP. So you can actually go into a store and feel as a VIP, even if it's the first time you're going there. And iFetch enables us to enhance that experience by collecting all of these data points and creating, through multimodal chats, as it was presented on the video. And I don't think I can do a better presentation than the video did. It will actually enable that in real life scenarios. So everyone working on this initiative and having the access to the talent that we otherwise would not have will enable us to build this faster. And actually, as João said before, from OutSystems, we probably would not be building it today because we have so many other things to be working on. So this partnership will help us accelerate these ideas and these concepts and bring them into reality.
Thank you, Luis.
Okay, let me then present our next two speakers and the companies they've co-founded and work for still. On my left, I have FeedsEye. FeedsEye is a company that does AI for fraud detection. I actually remember meeting Paulo and Pedro many years ago in Pittsburgh when Paulo was directing the Master in Software Engineering. And I guess Pedro will explain to you how the company evolved and started focusing on the fraud detection market and became a global company. The other person that I have with me is Sofia. Like I said, both of these companies work for the financial sector. Unlike Farfetch, Mambu is emerged from a service design project. I still remember the 5 students back then, only 3 of them founded the company, coming back to us and telling us, we want to do our research in Africa. And they came with a proposition of whether they were going to do it in Mozambique, in Angola, or I think in Cape Verde. And I told them, you need to study your geography better, because I think these are very different countries. They ended up going to Mozambique, and they got inspired to build a microfinancing service as a platform, which is what is now known as Mambu. Unfortunately, it was not based in Portugal, despite all of my efforts, but I'm very glad they were so successful. But I will start with Pedro. Can you tell us a little bit about the story of FeedsEye, and from a small startup to now one of the most valued companies we have in Portugal in the high-tech industry, and also how you're benefiting from the program?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for the invitation. It's hard to look back and really identify what caused our success, but one nice thing about the CMU Portugal program is that it touched us in so many different ways. So I'm pretty sure it contributed a lot to our early success. So we started by, during the Masters of Software Engineering, where when you first met us, we were in a program that they said was teaching the teacher. So we were also being trained as software engineer professors at CMU. And that was actually fundamental. We ended up doing a company in mission critical systems where software engineering is very important. So by then we were learning about software estimation, team dynamics, risk management, all those sorts of things that ended up being very useful. We already had lots of experience, so we were both in the software engineering group at University of Coimbra, but that really reinforced even more. So one thing of the CMU Portugal was knowledge. It's very important. The one was connections and collaboration. So it was also an opportunity to engage with, of course, CMU and their researchers, and also with the other partners in Portugal. For example, one of the early partners was Novabase, and we started collaborating with them. Back then we were just, what, five, 6 people back then, but it was one of our first early clients, and we got to them via the CMU Portugal, and then they became investors of FeedsEye, so it was also very important. We also benefit a lot from talent and students. So some of our early employees and still existing employees, senior VP of product and so on, and others were in dual degree programs with CMU. Amazing professionals, really important talent that we were able to bring from the program. Of course, there was also reputation. CMU is a top name worldwide. There is no other university in terms of software engineering knowledge and AI that is able to combine both at that level. And we also benefit with that reputation a lot. And I think something that was also fundamental, and I want to thank to Professor Fonseca de Moura, is especially the ambition. I think the ambition of the program was and is really outstanding. There was nothing like that before at that scale. And thinking with that level of ambition, I think it was really eye-opening, and we felt that, okay, from here we can really get to the world. There is no obstacles, there is no excuse. So I think that is also a driving force, is that there is really no excuse. Just get going, collaborate with whoever you need to collaborate, but get going, and the sky is the limit. And finally, we also benefit from this amazing industry and academic collaboration. It was the backbone of the program back in 2007, and it still is today. And I think it really brings a lot of benefit to Portugal, and to the companies, and to the universities. I think there's a really good benefit. It's a win-win situation for both sides.
I just realized that I did something wrong with the script, but it doesn't matter. Sophia, can you tell a little bit the story of Mambu and what you think has been successful for Mambu as a startup from the Carnegie Mellon Portugal program. And by the way, the importance of design.
Sure. As you very well said, so that moment, I think 12 years ago, when I, for the first time, heard about the program, to this day, I say it changed my life, and it literally did. So at that point, I was just yet another psychologist, clinical psychologist in Portugal, with almost zero perspectives of finding job in the next, I don't know, 12 months. And at that point, when I heard about the program, it just, my eyes sparkled, and I immediately had to take action. I remember just leaving that session with this eagerness, this urge to just try to find out as much as possible. I think I contacted Professor Nuno immediately, asked everything I had to do to get the scholarship and to get into the program. And indeed was the best thing I've done until today. It was, to me personally, what it brought was really a shift on my mindset, just opening up to new perspectives, to the possibilities, just being part of the program, sharing it with so many other talented and brilliant people in other industries. It was something that I had never imagined, and it was just an open up of possibilities to me. And I believe the same happened in a different level with my two other co-founders. So with Eugene coming from a computer science background and Freddie more on the business side. But I believe to them, it was also about, first of all, seeing the potential of working in these multidisciplinary teams, but also they were part of a course on entrepreneurship, and I believe that's what sparkled in them, the seed, and planted the seed to start something, which we didn't know at that point what it was. And over time, as we kept working on more projects together, we saw that there was also a good synergy between us, the three of us, and eventually the two other people who were part of the final project. And it was while working in this project, and yet this is another thing that was so directly part of what Mambu is right now, because that was the origin of everything. When we went to Mozambique and did our research for 6 weeks and came up with these ideas, and eventually went back to test some of them, and came back with the idea for Mambu, what was going to be Mambu. It was a little bit crazy at the moment. It felt crazy, but it also felt right somehow. And we were so grateful that we had this opportunity, because none of us were from a financial background. And just being able to be immersed in that reality and seeing the challenges, seeing the need and the opportunity for what was going to be Mambu was just something that would never have happened if it weren't for the CMU program. So for that, I believe forever we will be grateful to it.
Okay, perhaps we can now go back in a more free way to our speakers, asking them one of the questions we have here, and if someone wants to ask a question, I think that's allowed. At least our minister, if he wants to ask a question, he should be allowed. But my question to you is, do you find it easy to work with universities in Portugal? What do you think should be done to improve this university company collaboration?
Well, I find it easy in the sense that both the companies and universities want to collaborate. So the will is there, and we feel that the problems that we have are well addressed by the knowledge that the universities bring to the table. If there's something that we can improve, and I always say this, is more funding to the universities. More funding to the universities always. I think universities are the future. It's where we train our next generation of brilliant minds. So I'm always a supporter of more funding to the universities and more flexibility in the way that they manage their funds. Sometimes I feel that they are managing a lot of red tape to, if they have some surprise in a project, like if a student doesn't arrive on time and if they need to hire another student, the process is a little bit convoluted or heavy in terms of changes to personnel and costs and things like that. And the more simple we can make that for professors and researchers at universities, the more freedom and trust we have on them, I think the better.
Picking up on that, Pedro, I remember the other day we were talking about, and you were saying that you would rather fund blue sky research, give total freedom to the PIs from the university, rather than ask them to, write these very detailed proposals with the roadmap. Can you explain to our audience, because this is a general science forum, why this is so important in our field?
Yes, so if you really want to do research, it's really hard to put on paper that I'm going to do this on year 1 and that on year 2 and that on year 3 and that on year 4 and the outcomes are this. It's really hard, right? If you can do that, it's probably not research, right? So you probably know the general direction that you want to go, and you have a sense of what great looks like, but it's really hard to say what achievements you're going to get there, or sometimes even the steps. Even at FeedsEye, so many times, and I'm leading the research department, so many times I go through a place and then I have to come back and go through another place and come back. A project doesn't quite work this way. I feel like it's climbing a mountain. And okay, it's not really this way. It's maybe this way. No, or not this way. Maybe this way. Always trying to find an angle, an attack angle, as I say, to climb that mountain. And I think we should trust more the PIs at universities and give them bigger grants, more ears, and trust based on past reputation, and potentially increase the grant size as reputation and results keep coming from other smaller grants over time, but really have a more model of freedom for the PIs at universities to hire more or less students, PhDs or masters, longer or shorter term, because I think they need that flexibility. Their environment is very fluid with students coming and going. So we need to have a funding that allows that fluidity of human resources, and that really trusts the researcher, at least for a few years. Let's see what happens. And maybe after that we can build on that reputation and we'll wait for follow-up grants. But I think it should be more based on that initial trust and expecting that the results will come, instead of being so heavy on sometimes, at least on my perspective, on paperwork and smaller details.
João, do you want to comment on this?
Yeah, so I agree with what Pedro said. So we have great people in the universities, and we've worked with lots of great people in several universities. Some of the challenges we have is flexibility, as Pedro was saying. So if you're working on government-funded programs, it doesn't make sense to have a 3-year plan. I mean, it does make sense to have a 3-year plan. It doesn't make sense to believe that you're going to stick to the plan. So maybe in the first year you will, after that you won't, or else it wouldn't be research. One of the other big challenges we've had, and this has happened in the past, was when we tried to outsource some of the research to universities, and what happened is that the people in the universities did not have the human resources to tackle the research at the moment we needed to do the research. So there's not only a lack of funding, so I'm not talking about the amounts, but allowing the universities to have a body of researchers that can tackle industry problems on short notice would be something amazing. And what happens is that the university either has a PhD student or a postdoc, and the guy is either finishing the PhD and then he's going to leave. But if we ask them to do research at that moment, maybe he will help us, or else they don't have people to work with us, because the other people are the professors and they also have to teach. So there's a big lack of research power in the universities to work with us. And sometimes we do have the money to spend, and the university does not have the human resources to work with us. So yeah, but having said that, as a company, our first priority is to choose the right people to work with, and luckily we've been doing that in the past, and so it's always gone well. The other thing I would suggest is try to find a way to promote researchers who work with industry. I still find that researchers are very, very pressed to publish papers, which is fine. But I'm not sure if they're valued for doing work with university, with industry. And it would be really great if they did, because they would do more of that.
Okay, thank you, João. I don't know, Luís, Sofia, if you want to comment on this, or else on another topic, which is the importance of interdisciplinarity in helping the companies achieve the results, because all of these companies need different skills. They don't not only need computer science, they also need, and I'm looking at Farfetch and Mambu, I know that you need also other expertise to integrate into your company. I don't know, Sofia, you seem to...
Sophia, if you want to go first.
Yeah, please.
Sure. I guess with Mumbo, it's in the DNA already, right? We started as a multidisciplinary team, computer science, again, business and psychology, and we just got merged in the program of human-computer interaction. So that was there from the very get-go. And then, of course, we focused, still to this day, it's a high focus on the engineering team and the more the technical side of the company, given our nature. But we obviously invested a lot on the other areas too. So obviously on the commercial and finance, and people with, even within these global functions, if you wish, just having different backgrounds. We find it very, very useful to have that diversity, even when you are within the same team and within the same broad part of the organization, to have different perspectives, different backgrounds, different nationalities even. That has been fundamental to the way we've grew and how we discuss ideas, how we evolve and innovate.
So I can touch on both briefly, both points. So going back on the relationships with universities, especially on these projects, and I'll talk on personal experience. So I don't, and I think I'll build on what João and Pedro already mentioned. In terms of what I said before, it's still true. So there are initiatives that we would have not be working on if it wasn't for these types of partnerships. But also the reality is, I have more paperwork to do on partnerships with universities than I have to do internally. And internally, we are also, for example, and this is real examples, my research team is working on blockchains and 3D technology. And we can adjust the roadmap faster. And I think that touches a bit on what João mentioned before. And also, it has trickled down to conversations I've been present in with multiple universities that we tried to get some initiatives moving forward where the need, touching on the budget side, the need to actually figure out exactly where the budget goes and when exactly it goes and who will get it was the primary talking point. And instead of us trying to address a real challenge in terms of the technology, we wanted to validate, to test, to experiment, and what that could bring in terms of future value. That was kind of the secondary conversation, because we spent 2 hours discussing who would get the budget, because it would need to be perfectly justified under a specific plan. So just wanted to share that on the personal experience. On the second question, at Farfetch, we actually get to have from inception technologists, supply chain experts, marketeers, stylists on the same meetings discussing different projects. So I think that kind of covers the multifaceted side of the problems we need to achieve. But just specifically on technology, we also have from product designs and product managers to data governance specialists to data science, to database experts. We have people that are expert in geodistributing systems across different regions, including regions with more difficulties in getting data across the borders. So we have these requirements that makes multidisciplinary teams not just a reality, but a fundamental need. And I think companies that understand that actually succeed. And it's not just about technology, right? Our people team, our HR department, which we call the people team, are critical and vital for a lot of the things we do in terms of growing the company, right? Our conversations with marketing are critical to the way we evolve the technology. Our conversations with our colleagues that are photographers that are taking videos and photo shoots in our multiple offices, they are critical to the success of our technology. So I think everyone here will easily agree that it is a pillar of success to understand not just diversity in terms of the technology aspects of positions and roles, but also in terms of cultural significance of understanding other cultures, because being global actually means being local. And our success in China is because we have a team in China that understands that culture, and also then applies the specific role structure with product design and engineering and testing and infrastructure and stylists and all of that. So I think it's key.
Thank you, Luis. I have another question for all of you. So one of the things that you all have mentioned is the interest of these partnerships in terms of talent. And so João was saying that there are not many people doing research, or that it could be better to have more researchers at university. Many times the students go to the companies. So, but also you complain that you need more talent. So there is some tension here in one sense, because of course we want our students to work afterwards. Sometimes you want them to get the PhD, the master and the PhD. On the other hand, they have a lot of pressure from the companies, but I realize that you also give value to the knowledge they get. So sometimes they get not that early, so they take some more time to study, and at the end they make a difference because of that. So what are your thoughts about this?
I can start. I think we need to look at these things in time scales much larger than we typically look, because I think the way we get to success is to create positive feedback loops. The universities promote entrepreneurship supports universities somehow. For example, just today we are signing a grant with the University of Coimbra, our alma mater. And I think it's through this long vision of collaboration between academia and the companies that we can produce these feedback loops of, with great funding, you can attract talent at universities, both professors and students, you can retain them. With that talent, you can foster new companies, which are probably going to be involved with the universities again and create more knowledge and more problems for the universities to solve, and so on and so on. So I think there's a feedback loop here that we need to actively think, how can we design something that lasts 20 years, that is ever growing slowly, year after year, decade after decade, and think for our goals for 2030, 2040, and so on.
Yeah, so I think we, as Pedro was saying, we need to be an ecosystem, the universities and the industry. And maybe in the past, the companies were not as research intensive as they are right now. Companies such as FeedsEye and OutSystems definitely value research and people with high skills. So I don't think that's a problem anymore, and we shouldn't see these two sides as a competition. They're not two sides, they are the same side. I did research at university, now I'm working in the industry. I don't feel like I've gave up academia. Maybe I'll go back. Maybe there should be ways for people to be on both sides, doing both things, because they are complementary. So, I mean, I don't know what exactly the exact model is for this to work, but we're getting there, and we need to make it work as an ecosystem.
Luis and Sofia, do you want to add something? Or José, of course.
Well, I guess I can go now. So if I understood the question, is about the relationship with academia and actually the access to the talent that we so desperately need in corporations, in companies, and from startups to scale-ups. And again, I'll subscribe what Pedro said. I think we need that feedback loop. Probably it's longer than 20 years. Probably it's a multi-generational one. But we need to also see it from a kind of a career path perspective. Right? We get access to this talent that comes out of universities or comes out of these programs, and they're really top talent, right? Also, when I mention access to talent, I mention top talent, because let's not confuse quantity with quality. So we have access to that talent, and they start working on the initiatives, and they are very excited. But then they start to open up to the entire globe, right? We're on a global economy, and they start to look at, and I'm going to be specific about Portugal. They start to look outside of Portugal, and they start to compare not just the technical challenges, but every other variables, from salaries to taxes to compensations to quality of living. And we actually win in some in Portugal, where we lose in many others. So I think even for the audience here, it's something to consider, that even if companies, like it was said before, and I will not repeat what my peers mentioned, once we tackle those, we also need to retain the talent. And that would be my kind of proposal for the group to think a bit more, and as a country, how we can build on the relationships with universities and corporations, and then keep that talent.
Thank you, Luis. Any more thoughts, or maybe Nuno has some other questions?
Maybe I could make a comment. So one thing I would like to highlight that I'm a very optimistic person, and sometimes even when I'm talking about better things, I don't feel that I'm complaining. If I look back 10 years ago, what we had 10 years ago and what we have now, there's no comparison. I remember when we started, I think the most valuable startup at the time, with an exit that was sold to other companies, was something like 140 million or something like that, like 12 years ago. And I remember starting FeedsEye and thinking, oh, that's amazing, 140 million, that's fantastic. Nowadays, there's literally dozens and dozens of companies in Portugal that they don't even make the news because they are only 140 or 50, right? The change in the ecosystem is really gigantic. The number of startup hubs and data science courses, it's really changed a lot. I remember when I was trying to hire the very first data scientist in Portugal, there was no one in LinkedIn. I searched, there was not a single person in Portugal with a data science title, because I was trying to hire that person for FeedsEye, and I realized, oh, there's no one. I placed a filter in Portugal, there was not a single person. So can you imagine that? This was in 2012. There was not a single person in Portugal with the title of data scientist. And now we have, 4, 5, 10 master's degrees in data science in Portugal, literally hundreds upon hundreds of data scientists in many different companies. I think the change is really amazing. And if anything, I hope, and I think we can continue this trend and aim for even bigger outcomes in the next 10 years.
Okay, thank you, Pedro. Any more questions? Is there anyone in the audience? Yes, we have, our minister wants to ask a question. I don't know if... Okay.
The key question as launched this morning, and particularly the way this conference was planned, is to foster ideas for the phase we are entering in Portugal and in Europe worldwide. This next generation EU, or overall the recovery plan. Certainly, we are facing times of a very large increased competition for human resources, because the recovery is not only in Portugal, it's throughout Europe, it's throughout the United States. And first and foremost, this will launch two key questions. Which type of programs, systems, technologies can you put together to further grow, to accelerate growth? And we are talking about a multiplier of 10 times at least in the 5 years to come. And certainly, how can we also keep attracting talent in a context which will be worthwhile, very hard to compete for talent in the years to come, not only in Iberian Peninsula, but in Europe worldwide. So ideas that you have for, say, mobilizing agendas for the recovery plan.
I have some ideas. So I think, as I was saying, I think we need to have really ambitious goals. One area that is very key these days is responsible AI, is the future of of AI. We already have systems making decisions in hospitals, in courts of law, job offers, and I'm one of the companies working in those systems, and I know that those systems are not perfect. But they are going to affect our lives more and more. So I think we need to have an ambitious agenda to work in this area, just like we have an ambitious agenda in terms of green energy and protecting the environment. We need to put that man on the moon, person on the moon kind of ambitious goal and make Portugal one key player in an area like this. It's a way of attracting talent. It's a very hot area these days because the problem is very large, it's not solved, it's very complex. It has a gigantic impact, it's across the industry. You can use this knowledge in this area in hospitals, in self-driving cars, in payment processing, in fashion, right? In job applications. It's very across the board, it's very innovative, it's where the talent is these days. And has tremendous applicability, and it's at the same time a small enough niche that we can do it, right? It's on one hand large enough with impact and small enough that we can do it. And it's because it's starting, I think, not necessarily this, but something like this, that is ambitious, that has high impact, that is important for society and for the economy. And then of course, plan long term for something like this. Maybe we start with 4 years, but we should be aiming for 20.
I don't know who else wants to comment, perhaps João?
Yeah, so I think what Pedro is saying makes a lot of sense. So we need to focus on relatively specific areas, not only to invest our money right, but to attract people. So if you're in New Zealand and you see Portugal as the leader in responsible AI, that's the place you want to go to. So people come here because if they're paid well and if they believe what we are doing is like the top. This is the place to be in terms of one specific area. And speaking from the point of view of OutSystems, the idea of investing in the digitalization, which you already are, so at least as an area, makes a lot of sense. So making Portugal a leader, I would love to make Portugal a knowledge leader in software development, which is an area that's reasonably specific. It's very hard to work on, and Europe already has a lot of minds working on this. So making Portugal like the place to be if you want to develop new software development technologies, I would love for us to get there. And of course, OutSystems would play a big role in that, but other companies are also working in the digitalization in other ways. So that's an area I think could make sense to invest in. And let me just add something. We OutSystems are hiring a lot of people from the outside, and it's not just because they are well paid, it's because they believe in what we're doing. So OutSystems is already being seen as a thought leader, and is not only in software development, but also as a product company. So as a product company that has good product development processes and so on, OutSystems is becoming recognized as a world leader in all of that, and that's what allows us to bring people in, being good at what we do.
I don't know if...
So I can add something.
Yeah. Yes, go ahead, Luis.
Yeah, there's a bit of lag between the conversations, so sorry for that. So I think there are two main points. One, how can we make Portugal kind of attractive, the cool factor, let's say, in technology, and I think that's what João and Pedro talked about. I would add the sustainability angle. Just to give an example, and again, machine learning can have a huge impact here. You know, there are billions of dollars of waste in returns of packages around the globe, for example. You know, if someone can develop technology for that, there was an initiative 10 years ago that I heard someone say the first person to solve sizing and fitting in the fashion world will be a multi-billion-dollar, will be a multi-billion-dollar millionaire or whatever the word is. No one has addressed that yet. You know, dozens of companies, so maybe someone in Portugal can do it. But there is actually a biggest challenge for me, which is probably related with the retention policy, retaining people in Portugal. Because there's a big difference between companies or Portuguese companies investing in technologies that are sexy and cool, and the returns of that investment actually stay in Portugal. Because if I hire someone from Berlin or I hire someone from Japan, I'm sending the money there in terms of taxes and so on. So we need to find ways, and I've been in some conversations in the past with unfortunately few results, especially here in the north, where there are no specific policies for people that want to move to Portugal, for example, and are over 40 and have families, or over 30 and have families. How can they move in the context of having still to support the kids, their partners? How does that work? How are we supporting that network? Because top tier talent doesn't appear at 20. That's very rare. They appear at 40 and 50 years old. So how can we bring them? I don't see any policies to support that. Also, we have to explain the amount of taxes they leave at the table after they stay here for a few months, right? They have some benefits initially, but then have stayed at the table. I think it was someone from OutSystems that said it. We have the poorest, richest people in the world. And I think that needs to be addressed. If we want to bring talent from San Francisco that stays here, that pays taxes here, we need to address that.
Sophia, what would it make to have Mambu open an office in Portugal?
It's been farther from happening. It might happen soon, or at least have a stronger presence in Portugal. But I think I really align with most of what has been said. It's really about, and we talk about multidisciplinary teams, right? I think it's about seeing, again, the government as this big team who can align incentives and think about this issue of how to attract people, which now, again, the war for talent is global, and especially with COVID, as we also mentioned before, it's going to be harder and harder to attract people to Portugal and to some other countries. So how do we have good enough incentives to allow people to make that move and to do that, as Luis was saying, with a family, and still be able to support their family and bring that talent here. I think it's really just about combining our minds and just seeing how to design that experience, if you want to talk in that way, and how to attract people. And I always go back to Dan Pink and the three elements of motivation, right? It's purpose, autonomy, and mastery. So then if you align those three in your company, if you give people purpose, allow them to have a career path where they can gain mastery and develop on their skills, and give them autonomy to reach those goals, I think that's the key element then in the company to sustain that. But we need that ecosystem to be aligned.
Thank you, Sophie. I think our time is almost up. I just wanted to say to the audience that we have here with us 4 companies that are valued over $1 billion. That's why they are called unicorn companies. There is another one affiliated with the program, which is TalkDesk. And I wanted to tell you that if you think that what these people were saying here is not true, that we cannot build a leading research center in Portugal in responsible AI, I can tell you that there are companies like this in Europe, only 40-something. So Portugal has almost 10% of these high-tech companies building on ICT technology, and they are all here, or at least they have a lot of presence here. So I think if there is something we can do, now that we lost the qualifying for the European Championship yesterday, if there is something we can certainly do in Portugal that is not just football, is probably build a world-class research center in responsible AI. So without, I think we have the video to close, but I would like to ask InRes and José to say a few words before we close. And thank you again, all our speakers, for being here. And there was another one here that I didn't see, which is Paulo Marques sitting there in the audience.
So it's my turn to thank all the speakers and the audience as well. And we hope to be here next year with more results. But especially I liked, all the comments. Sophia's point of view is it's different because we are Most of us are engineers, so it's always good to see more interdisciplinary teams. And one thing is that we should think big, like Pedro was saying, and think not for next weekend or next year, but for decades. That's what we should aim for and for the future of our kids. Thank you.
José, do you want
I
to close
just
the
want
panel?
to thank you also, everyone. And it was a pleasure to hear what you have to say. I think that we will review your comments and try to extract some action items, and maybe we'll come knocking at your door to help address some of them. Thank you very much.
We can pass the video, the second part of the video.
Let's turn our eyes to health issues. This is the proposal made by the Intelligent Care Project. Multimorbidity is an issue that brings many concerns to healthcare services, namely with high uses and costs. So what if we could use data science in order to early signal and characterize patients with multimorbidities using electronic health records, as well as identifying personalized clinical pathways for each cluster based on granular evidence and developing tools for monitoring, predicting hospital interactions, and empower patients. All this may be achieved through the creation of advanced analytical algorithms. The Maya project has the demanding goal of taking online support of international customers to the next level by using innovative machine learning techniques towards a multilingual, fully context-aware solution for conversational AI. Maya will focus on improving the development of multilingual chats by empowering customer service professionals with advanced AI technology that will allow them to chat in 30 languages with native quality. Forest wildfires are one of the main issues of the 21st century due to climate change. So the Safe Forest project is dedicated to protecting forests by creating robots that will grant surveillance and maintenance of these vast areas. The semi-autonomous robot system will be designed to clean vegetation in rough and sloppy areas, creating opportunities for controlling fire propagation and to prevent the possibility of larger forest fire events. The project will also encompass the design of an advanced mapping and characterization system of the terrain and its detailed vegetation cover. By doing so, the idea is to drastically reduce the costs associated with the maintenance of private or public forests, namely near houses, as well as the protection of wide corridors used as fuel breaks and corridors near critical infrastructures such as roads, railways, telecommunication lines, antennas, and electric utility lines to control and reduce the propagation of large forest fires. Artificial intelligence may be giving medicine a helping hand in the near future. The TEMI project is working on a shared database that will help physicians on disease diagnosis. In other words, TEMI will develop a set of tools to support medical decision based on AI algorithms that will explain to both clinicians and scientists the diagnosis of a specific disease and its causes, focusing on cervical cancer, lung diseases, and eye diseases. The system will explain the information visually through images or text by presenting it through a concept or sentence that makes sense to the user. The WOW project is determined to create an electronic skin patch with biomonitoring sensors that will be able to collect and classify physiological and behavioral data, including heart and muscle activities, respiration rate, body temperature, blood oxygen, among others. This will have a huge impact for everyone involved in the healthcare service. For patients, this option is a guarantee of comfort, since users will be able to be untethered from machines and may stay at home instead of having to visit the hospital. For the healthcare system, this solution will have an influence on the reduction of costs related to treatments and hospitalizations, as well as allowing an invaluable centralized data collection. As we can see, the future is bright and right around the corner, and Carnegie Mellon Portugal is proud to be part of it.